Hi, welcome to the Gambling Chef Kitchen. Today we're making a recipe that I hold very close to my heart. It's an Indian dish called Aloo Gobi, which is basically potatoes and cauliflower. I grew up making Indian food. It was one of the earliest things I learned how to make. We had family friends named Saroj and Sachdef, and Saroj had some cooking classes because we all raved about how delicious her food was. So she gave kind of some small group cooking classes, and I was probably 5 or 6 years old. So I was lucky enough to learn Indian food from a very young age, and it's one of my comfort foods. This dish is really easy and it's really delicious. So let's get started. We're just going to take the ingredients. They're basically 1 head of cauliflower, 4 red potatoes, not too huge. These ones are a little big, but my cauliflower is also huge, so that's fine. And then we've got some spices, ginger, and the tomato is my addition. That's actually kind of a regional addition. It's not in the original recipe that Saroj taught me, but I like to add the tomato. So we're just gonna take the red potatoes, and all we're gonna do is cut them into kind of manageable chunks. So I cut one in half, and then I'm gonna cut it into, I'm gonna cut it in half again, and then I'm gonna cut each section into about 4 pieces so that your potato chunks, and I'll do close-ups so you'll be able to see all this, but your potato chunks are about like this, like a little wedge. Well, they're gonna cook a little bit slower than the cauliflower, but you need them to be a manageable size. So shouldn't take too long to get through these potatoes. Again, this is so important to me, so special to me, this particular dish, and just Indian food in general. It's one of my favorite things on the planet. And once you learn how the spices work together, that's really one of the fundamental things about Indian food. Is there are a lot of spices, but you kind of learn how they work together, which ones are roasted, which ones are finishing spices, and you learn how they go so beautifully with different ingredients. Indian food, once you have the spices, is also a very affordable cuisine to make because it's comprised a lot of vegetables. I did just drop a potato on the floor. I'm gonna leave it down there for now. So during COVID times, when everyone was hoarding stuff at the supermarket, I was making a lot of vegetable dishes because everything else was like gone, right? You couldn't get rice, you couldn't get bread, you couldn't get, so many things. But you go to the produce section, and I'm telling you, the produce section was pretty much always fully stocked, except bananas, which I don't really, bananas are fine, but I don't need them. So I would go and be like, wow, I think I'll do a week of Indian food, or I think I'll do some Italian vegetable dishes. So it became really fun for me because I already have this repertoire of cooking these types of things. So the next thing we're gonna do is handle our cauliflower. Now, this cauliflower is quite large, and there are 2 ways to do this. I already took the core out. So there's like a big core at the bottom, and I ran my knife around it and I kind of broke it out of this. So the 2 ways you can do this is, if you're in a rush, then you can just slice this like this and cut it into smaller pieces. But the way I was taught in this particular dish is you actually break off the florets like this, and then you can cut these or break these into smaller pieces so that they go in the dish like this, like a bite-sized piece. So I'm gonna get going on this cauliflower, and then I will check back in with you in a second, and we will start cooking. All right, I got the cauliflower prepped, and the last thing I wanna show you is, because I'm gonna add tomatoes that I've already prepared some, I'm gonna show you how I did that. So the first thing you do, these are Roma tomatoes. You could also use tomatoes on the vine. Heirloom tomatoes would probably even be okay with this as long as they're not too watery. So I made a little slit in the bottom. I popped this into boiling water for about 30 to 45 seconds, and then I ran it under some cool water, and that's all to loosen the skin. So you're gonna see the skin's gonna come off really nicely. And that's the first thing you do. It's just a good thing to know how to do in general, especially if you like me and you're very textural of food and you really don't like tomato skins. I really don't like tomato skins in my food. Okay, so then I cut off the bottom, and I'm just gonna cut this into quarters. This is easiest to do with a paring knife, this next step. And then you're just gonna run your knife underneath this white veiny part here, which is where all the seeds attach, and this is pretty tough. Especially these aren't super great tomatoes. And then you can just kind of scrape the seeds out. And then you're going to just take these sections and cut them in half. And then you're gonna cut them in small cubes like that. And that's it. And then probably you're gonna end up with about, if you use 4 Roma tomatoes, you're gonna end up with about a cup of tomatoes. And it's okay if there's some seeds in there. Doesn't need to be fancy like that. So I'm gonna prepare the rest of these tomatoes and we will get cooking while my pan is heating up. I will see you in a minute. Okay, so I have 6 tablespoons of ghee heating in a pot. Ghee is basically just clarified butter. Mine got a little browner than I meant it to, but that's just gonna add more flavor. Or you can use any vegetable oil that you want. So the most important thing is to toast the spices. So this is a teaspoon of turmeric and a half teaspoon of cayenne. And that's going into our pot. And we are gonna make sure that we stir this so that it's gonna get nicely toasted, but we don't want it to burn. So we're gonna control the heat on this, watch it very carefully, and I see some smoke starting to come out, so I'm gonna add the ginger. And right away, I am going to add our vegetables. So all of the potatoes, all of the cauliflower that we chopped. You can see the size now of these vegetables. Because I've got my close-up working for you. So we're gonna make sure that we scrape the bottom of the pot. I'm gonna switch to a metal spoon for this. I've got my metal spoon in here, so it makes it a lot easier to get under these vegetables. And we're gonna make sure we thoroughly toss them in this, and we're also gonna add about a teaspoon of salt to this at this point. It needs a fair amount of salt because these vegetables, there's a lot of vegetables in here. And we're gonna put some tomato in here too. So what you don't wanna have happen is you don't wanna burn anything. And that can happen easily if you're not careful about the temperature that you're using. So what I'm gonna do at this point is I'm going to put a lid on this and I'm gonna keep watching it. I might lower the heat probably to like a medium or medium low. And I'm gonna stir it every couple of minutes because you really wanna get the stuff up from the bottom of the pot that starts accumulating there, and you really, really don't want this to burn. So make sure you keep an eye on this, stir it every couple of minutes, and I will show you next time I stir it when to add the tomatoes. All right, this has been cooking for about 10 minutes. My little portable stove is not very powerful, so this would normally be a little bit crispier by now, but I'm gonna add the tomatoes that we prepared, about a cup of tomatoes, and you're gonna stir those in. Again, make sure you get everything that's at the bottom. And then I am going to cover this again, and we're gonna continue to cook this until the potatoes are tender. So that's probably gonna take another 30 minutes or so. Just keep an eye on it, make sure your heat isn't too high. We don't want it too low either. So I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Check this out. This is what your aloo gobi should look like. You can still see chunks of potato and cauliflower, but everything is thoroughly cooked. The tomatoes have nicely coated everything. The spices are mixed in, and it's just a pot of deliciousness. So let's go and taste this together. I cannot wait. All right, the aloo gobi is ready, and you better believe that I am excited about this one because this is the ultimate comfort food to me. So here we go. I've got a little bit of cilantro. I didn't chop the cilantro. I just tore it off of the bunch. I feel like you could do either one, but I was taking some pictures, some glam pictures. So I had to do that. So I'm gonna dig right into nice potato I've got here on the top. I could do a piece of cauliflower now too, because I want all of it. You can tell I'm in my happy place. Any Indian food is my happy place. I love cooking it. I love eating it. Thank you again to Saroj for teaching me how to make this and teach me to respect and love Indian food and culture. That's one of the reasons I am doing my show, The Gambling Chef, is to introduce you to all of the cultures that are represented at the casino and in the cuisines that we eat, and enlighten you a little bit as to the possibilities that are out there. You can find this recipe on thegamblingchef.com. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel on YouTube and Facebook, and I'm also on Instagram, The Gambling Chef. I'll see you guys next time.